I recently got into 3D printing and thought, how can I use this cool technology to improve my gaming setup? So I looked at the problem areas of my game space and began designing 3D printable solutions. And I came up with some designs that I'm actually quite proud of, and I think others might be interested in employing for their own gaming setups. So today, I'm going to show off my upgrades, how I made them, and even share the design files in case you want to print them or modify them for your own space. Links to the printable files and the hardware needed are in the video description. Now, one of the jokes in the 3D printing world is that people mostly just kind of print random junk with it. And to be honest, there is a lot of free junk on the internet to print, and it can be tempting to just print things that you don't really need just because, well, you can. But with this project, I really wanted to avoid nonsense upgrades or just purely cosmetic upgrades. I wanted functional improvements to my setup that would also improve the look as a bonus. Now, one of the main problems with my setup is just generally a lot of peripheral clutter. I have a cell phone, USB card reader, Stream Deck, Xbox controller, and just other items like a notebook and pens that are strewn across my desk. My goal here is to not add more stuff to my desk, but to actually reduce the stuff and improve the convenience and functionality. So I began designing a dock that would house my Stream Deck in a more convenient location, hold my cell phone in a spot where I'll see incoming messages while charging it wirelessly, and integrate a card reader in a space-saving way. The space behind my keyboard wasn't being used, and it's kind of the most convenient place for a Stream Deck, so I created a modular design that would slot in those items at a 45-degree angle, allowing for easy accessibility while gaming or working. I first measured all the items that had to fit into the device. Calipers are really going to be your best friend when it comes to 3D design work and getting your dimensions perfect. I've got the old Gen 1 Stream Deck, which still works perfectly, so I've never had a need to upgrade it, but creating a nice housing for it does make it feel kind of like a brand new product. Then I created a phone holder that slots my wireless charger into the back with some vent holes to let it cool off, and at the end, a small card reader slot. Then I set them up to print on my new Bamboo Lab X1 carbon printer and began testing. For anyone unfamiliar with 3D printing, this is an FDM printer, fused deposition modeling. Basically, it's an additive process in which a spool of filament, usually a type of plastic, is fed into a hot end extruder, which melts it and applies it layer by layer to a print bed, creating a three-dimensional object. 3D printing allows for rapid prototyping, but also for making objects in different ways from traditional manufacturing, like having hollow interiors or lattice work interiors to reduce on the material needed, but also retain structural integrity. This tech has been out for quite a while, but it's getting a lot better, cheaper, and much more accessible each year, with the new Carbon X1 here having a lot of really awesome features that make the process much easier than it's ever been. Now, for the most part, all the prints turned out nicely, although my stand had some issues with the supports that I printed just being too thin in one area and cracking. It was a design flaw on my part, and frankly, the struts aren't even needed, but since it's not really a visible part of the design, I chose not to reprint it and waste plastic. The Stream Deck fits in quite snugly, so there's no movement when I press the keys. The phone holder is purposely oversized so I can grab it easily, and the card reader hole is very snug. It actually required a little hammering to get it in, but it definitely doesn't move around during usage, which is ideal. Slotting the whole unit behind my keyboard works perfectly, and it does exactly what I want it to do. The black PLA filament that I used looks very similar to my keyboard material and other black peripherals on my desk, and aside from a slight texturing that you get with the 3D print process, it otherwise looks like something that was made in a large manufacturing plant. Okay, on to the next phase, designing a custom desk drawer to fit the rest of my stuff. Initially, I was looking at some free models that you can download on Thingiverse, but of course, I can't do stuff the easy way. I wanted a drawer with sliders, and I also wanted it on the right side of my desk, which has the height adjustment button panel taking up valuable table space. So I designed a drawer to fit around the button panel and used some spare RC car bearings to create a slider system. I downloaded some free CAD files for the slider and then adjusted them for my use. I knew I was going to have to do some test prints to get the bearings to snap on correctly, so I just printed out a bunch of the snap-in parts a few times to get the sizing correct to waste as little plastic as possible. I then printed the drawer using some wood-colored filament and attached the slides with machine screws. The top slides slides I glued together with a custom spacer to get the placement correct, and then I screwed it into the underside of my desk, and I gotta say the results aren't bad for my first drawer anyway. It fits my controller, notepad, miscellaneous junk, and the pen slot works perfectly. However, only after installing did I realize that the slides were designed to be manufactured in metal, so there's a little more flexing than I'd like with them since it's printed in PLA. But otherwise it's totally functional, and if the slides ever do break, I'll just reprint them with a little more structural reinforcement. Next up are some key quality of life improvements that I've been wanting. This one here is an idea that my editor Alex had about creating a super easy to use magnetic charging dock for my wireless gaming mouse. Traditionally, to charge my Razer Death Adder, I have to unplug the Bluetooth device from the USB cable and then plug that cable directly into the mouse. Not really a big deal, but I often forget to do it, plus the system means that I have to have more things sitting on my desk. Instead, I bought some USB-C magnet disconnects and a USB-C extender device since the Razer has the USB port recessed. Then I printed a holder that's the perfect height next to my SteelSeries mousepad. Now I can simply move the mouse up to the top right corner of my pad and watch it snap into place and begin charging. I also put the Bluetooth device into the SD card reader USB port and it works great right there. The new setup is super convenient and frankly it's a good place to store my gaming mouse while I use the vertical mouse for doing general work. And also, in case you forgot, all these items are linked in the video description. The Amazon affiliate links will give me a small kickback, so please use them and help support making content that's more production intensive, such as this video. Now next up is something that I've wanted to do for a while, and that is to fix my mic arm XLR Cable Ties. This Rode PSA-1 mic arm has been around forever. I think I actually bought this when I first started my YouTube channel like 10 years ago, and I see this same mic arm all over the place. The design is generally fine, but one of the things that's always bugged me are the Velcro ties that come with it, which are supposed to hold the XLR cable, and they always slide out of place. Even while making this video, the Velcro started to slip again, and then the cable starts to fall away from the arm. It's of course not a huge deal, but it's always been annoying, and while you could just zip tie the XLR cable into place, I wanted something that looked a little cooler and also allowed for easy detachment if I wanted to replace something. So I 3D modeled some rubber clips to fix the problem. That's right, you can print flexible rubber, also known as TPU, thermoplastic polyurethane. Conveniently, I had a spool in electric blue that I was using to print for some BattleBot parts, so that's what I used for the clips. I did, however, print these on my older Prusa printer as the X1 Carbon doesn't recommend using TPU due to its flexibility with the feed system. I'm sure I could probably get it to work, but I figured why not just use the older one in case anything goes wrong. Now this design was really fast and easy to make, and they clip on perfectly to the boom arm and hold the XLR cable in place with much better friction so they just don't slide around after extended usage. Problem solved. If you have this same mic arm in a 3D printer, go grab the 3D files and print them out for yourself with some TPU. Now the last item on this list is very specific to my setup. I like to play Star Citizen with dual joysticks, and I place these sticks as close as I can get them to my desk-mounted armrests. But the armrests tend to get in the way of the sticks while using them, and it can be really annoying when quickly swapping between keyboard and mouse and joysticks. So I designed some magnet holders to snap the arms into a storage position so that they're not flying around when I use my sticks. And while the magnet holders do look a little blocky, from a functional standpoint, they work exactly as intended. They lock into place and no longer get in the way of my flight sticks. Part of me, of course, wants to redesign a printable armrest from the ground up to incorporate all the features that I want from a gaming armrest, but that's a project for another day, or another week, rather. These projects definitely take some time, but they're fun and rewarding. I used to do a lot of 3D design work before I became a YouTuber, so learning Fusion 360 for making 3D parts wasn't a huge challenge, but I've still got a lot to learn about the software and printing in general. Of course, I have many more ideas for further improving my setup with printing tech, but I'd also be curious to hear if you guys have any ideas for things that you wish you had for your gaming setup. Maybe I can make them for another video. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.